Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Duffy, and of course, we are reviewing the Hawthorn v Carlton game today. Routine 60-point win today. Absolutely fantastic to see the Blue Baggers back up the performance against Gold Coast and kind of break the streak. Not really break the streak. I know that. Who was it? I think it was Port Adelaide a team that won through
Dogs.
Dogs. That's right, Dogs. They won on the weekend to break the streak. But of course, it was good to see us back up after the bye. But of course, the final scores were Hawthorn 7 goals, 10 points, 52 to Carlton, 17 goals, 10, 112. As I said, 60-point wins, 66,000 at the MCG. Cold, rainy winter's day. Absolutely iconic. Daffy boy, how are you, mate?
No, I'm good. I'm quite relaxed, I'm satisfied. Obviously, you can't go over the board and go, oh, fuck, we're better win the flag now and all that stuff. But I think, like we've been saying, we just want to see a good brand of footy, win, lose or draw. And against a side like Hawthorn in the past, maybe like, especially that 2021 game where we were pretty bad and kind of scraped over the line where Harry had to kick a goal from 85 metres out. That game, like it just wasn't satisfying, like winning those types of games. But today, you're versing it Hawthorn side, obviously the underdogs as well, but we just put them into the ground and finished the game early. And obviously, really, really pleasing. But it's going to be a good lead into next week because that's going to be a massive clash over in Western Australia.
Of course, you're going. So, absolutely. I think we're going to try and look forward to. Of course, we're going to do the preview, but we're going to try and sort out whether or not we'll try and do the preview while you're over there. Probably not, but of course, we'll try and get some content while you're over there as well because it's the first time we've both been to. I'm just saying. I know that I'm going towards the end of the year, but of course, it's the first time that you're going. And what a clash because it's Fremantle who probably needs to respond after last game against the Dogs. But of course, we need to just try and keep winning. So, initial thoughts, of course. So, it's good to see. I mean, the laid out, of course, was Tom De Koning with a knee knock. I'm quite concerned about that actually because it's quite interesting that and TDK were both out. So, a bit to talk about there, of course, in the preview to who we're going to bring in next week. But of course, we'll keep it to this game. So we adjusted well to the lack of ruckman. So of course, Lewis Young came in to fill the void, which is always he was absolutely superb before I transitioned into you, Daffy Boy. You can touch on his game. But of course, Paddy Cripps and Adam Chera doing their thing every single week. Chera is what a find. Oh. Even when we traded, I don't know what it was in the end, but the first round and something else for Chera, and I was just like, I was confident with it, but a lot of supporters were quite, you hope he's good. He's worth every single dollar. Every single dollar, he is worth it. So, also, to see a fantastic start. It was quite good to see us start well. And, of course, the halftime scores, I think it was 5 points at 55 to us. Insane. And before I transition to you, Daffy Boy, Jacob Weitering and the report. Yeah. So, of course, that's a bit of a talking point that will be seen throughout the week. Before you touch on everything else, what is your initial thoughts with the Jacob Weitering report? Is he in trouble, or do you think we'll see him in the navy blue next week?
It's a tough one because the footage is very zoom. Like you can't really see much. It's so hopefully they look at it and go, maybe it's just a low kind of impact because it obviously was Meeks playing the rest of the game. Obviously the free kick was given away, but I think it was more kind of an off the ball kind of. He might have clipped him in the chin. I don't think he punched him. I think it was more of a push. And knowing our lawyers, I think we can safely say that he'll be downgraded to a fine. But like I said pre-episode, I don't think he wants the fine either. So he might be asking the AFL just to let him off for this week. But no, I think hopefully because he's in really good form and we definitely need him down there.
Yeah.
The way he's playing, the way he's kind of sorting out the troops in that back six, it's been pleasing to see the last 3-4 weeks. So hopefully he gets off. Pato, what are your thoughts? Because I think it's tough, but I think he gets off, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he does as well. As you said, I think it's going to be. I think he would almost rather the week off because he doesn't want to have. He doesn't want to have it. I mean, it's good to kind of joke about it now. I mean, I don't think he would be joking about it, but I think it's more of like it's so good to see him back performing the way he is. Into the winners that we know. But to me, I think because the first hit on Meek was obviously to the chest, and then he tried to go to the chest again, but it seemed like Meek went down a little bit, and he probably clipped about here. And then, but also we've seen that being done in the report, and the player is actually being suspended. So hopefully he isn't suspended. I just would love to see him next week because he's so important now. Like, I mean, I've said it from day dot. If your key defender is performing, your team is most likely going to win. And he has found some form, which is something that we've been crying out for so many weeks now. He's now found some form. And it's so good to see. But also on Chera and Cripps, Staffy boy, before we move on to the defensive structure, what did you think of their game?
Solid. I thought Cripps was dominant. I think at one stage he had about 18 handballs, but I think most of them were so impactful in terms of forward handballing and getting in and out of packs, which is what we want to see him doing. We don't want to see him doing overly too much, in my opinion, when you've got guys like Chera, Walsh in there, Kennedy in there doing his thing, and Lockie Fogarty went in there a few times, definitely through the midfield, had a fair bit of the ball, which is good to see. And no, but with Ches, he's I hate to say it, but gee, if we have a good fucking 8 more weeks, you almost go all Australian.
Oh yeah,
I hate to keep. I don't want to talk it up here because it's going to be tough to make that team, but
he's close.
He'd be in the squad of 40. He'd have to be.
Yeah.
He'd be in the squad of 40, and I think he'd be very close. Because I think he's been extremely consistent considering we had a 6-week patch there where we were terrible, but he was still playing well. And it's good to see he's still playing well when we're playing well. I think that's a good sign of he's having a really good year because I feel like in the past we've had certain players where they dominate when we're struggling. They get in their touches because they're the only kind of guys getting it. And then they get into a good side and then you see them kind of fall behind the pack a little bit. But Chera's really stood out from the pack, really. And like you said, he's worth every dollar. And I think it was pick 8 we gave up. So you're giving up pick 8 for a genuine star, he's already good. So it was definitely a win, that deal. I'm not sure who. I think they got a miss, maybe, Freo, who's a decent forward as well, and we'll touch on that in the preview, of course. But yeah, Ches and Cripp are good, and it's good to see Walshy good by foot now too.
Yeah, and also his meters gained as well, Walshy. Just seems like he's now starting to take on the game. So good to see. So very quickly, before we touch on the backline side of things, Adam Chera, do you reckon the reason why he's playing so well this season? He played well last season, but this season he's gone to another level. Do you reckon that's a bit down to the absence of George Hewitt and not as many midfield rotations in there? Do you reckon that's down to the absence of George Hewitt and also other people like a Zach Fisher transitioning through there?
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a few different factors, but I think it's more natural growth in his game. I think, what is he, 23, I think now. The same kind of age as Paddy Dow, obviously taken in the same draft and obviously both in entirely different situations. But no, I think it's kind of that natural progression. Obviously, he's got to kind of not carry the load, but obviously have a bit more of a load. But yeah, geez, he's really stood up. And I was speaking to my brother at the game today, and we were just talking about how much work he's had on look at his body. Like he was last year as well. I think he's always been that guy to work hard and, get his body right and fit. But I feel like he's really turned into a man, not he was a man, last year, but I think, you can tell when those guys start to become A-grade midfielders that we know they can be. And he's hitting the scoreboard, Pato.
Yeah.
He doesn't miss many set shots when he's got the opportunity. Right now, he'd be high up there. I'd imagine. Well, this year he's probably kicked, I don't know how many goals, probably 5 or 6. And also that's another point. Our midfield was kicking goals, Pato.
Yeah.
First 12 weeks,
Nothing.
we're only getting goals out of Kerno and maybe a couple of small forwards here and there. Like it was really tough to see because I think that's how we won games last year. We had multiple goal kickers. I think we had 11 different goal kickers I read before. So that is pleasing.
Yeah, completely spot on. I actually agree with that, and I think it's been a different, I guess, like route to goal. Like if you're
Yes.
scoring, you're trying
Yeah.
to find other ways to get a score on the board. So, of course, I mean Charlie, Martin, Harry Mackay, David Cunningham, Chera, Akers, Fogarty, Doc, and Owies, and also Silvani were all the goal
Yep.
scorers today from our end. So, of course, out of them, the people who aren't forwards is Doc, Akers, Chera, Cunningham to a stretch as well. I mean, like Cunners is playing more as
In
our
the
forward,
middle
but
a bit, yeah.
yes, but like he played a lot more through the middle as well, which is good to see him because it's just different aspect. Like we don't look predictable anymore.
Yeah.
And we're
No.
not that one wood where we can throw a Fog through there. We can throw a Cunningham, Doc. I
Yeah.
thought held that wing.
Yeah, he's good.
I reckon he was absolutely fantastic, but I think Cottrell needs to come back in next week, and I do like Doc as that half back. I do.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's a lot better at that half back role. And of course, if you need something for the midfield, chuck him in there. Like you know what he can do. But I think it's good now that we have options that we know we can rely on, rather than being like, oh no, Ed Keno's going the forward line. What's going on here, Duffy boy? So we'll now move on to the defensive structure. To just touch on a few names, the whole back line as a whole was absolutely.
Yeah.
I reckon. I mean, I know the Hawthorn kicked 52 points, quite a high score from our standards, I think. But I think they still did I think they still did their job. I know that Mitch Lewis didn't have much of an impact on the game at all. So I mean, like he kicked 2 goals, but Luke Bruce as well to a stretch. Like he usually dominates us, and I reckon Nick Newman did his job. So, of course, we touched on Weiters, but of course, Nick Newman, Brodie Kemp, and Jordan Boyd as well. Jordan Boyd as well. Those guys, Daffy boy. What did you think of their game? I reckon I don't like in this term. I think the stats do lie a little bit, like their impact stats wise, not overly, not extremely great, but impact.
Yeah.
Probably the best out there. So what did you think of their game, Staffy boy?
Yeah, back six. We've been saying that hasn't really been the issue this year.
Yeah.
I seriously don't think that has been the issue. I think more of the issue with the defense is the way they get the ball out of D50. And that kind of, it was negative, the way we were moving the ball around D50. You know, Weitering would take a mark and it'd be short. And you actually saw it a couple of times today. We were playing well most of the game, but you saw when we were stagnant in our D50, it would find it really hard to get out.
Yeah.
I think there was a few times where Weiters was trying to get Harry in that higher up the ground, which is understandable to make a contest. But with all those guys, it was superb. I was saying about Jordan Boyd earlier. Jesus, man, like this guy was, at the Dogs VFL list, and we picked him up mid-season. But it's what we've been crying out for.
Yeah.
These guys that they go under the radar and they do their job, and he'll forever go under the radar.
Yeah.
No other fan is going to be talking about Jordan Boyd. He won't be on the front cover of the Herald Sun tomorrow morning, but we know what he is going to achieve in the jumper, and he's not going to have 40 touches. But I know I'd say right now he's the best kick in the team.
Yep.
He's the best kick in the team. Field kick, like fantastic.
Yeah.
Just the things he pulls off, and he almost kicked a goal today as well, which he probably should have pulled the trigger at. But
yeah.
I thought it was going through. I was up and about there. Weiter's superb. His body work. He made Mitch Lewis look amateur. And it shows when he's in form. Doesn't matter what forward it is, he can really dominate. And Newey just does his thing, doesn't he?
How good is he?
He locks out his players. He's not, once again, under the radar. He's not going to be, on the fucking social media post tomorrow or whatever, but we know what we're going to get out of him. We don't need superstars everywhere. We've got them. We've got plenty of them.
Yeah.
And obviously Kempy, like you said, with that. He's solid. And I think, he was at one stage, he was on Ned Reeves, which was funny as the height difference, but the way he plays, he kind of can play above his height, which is good to see, and then also play on smaller players, which will be important against Freo, because I just don't think they're a massive forward line.
Yeah.
And the Dockers, they don't really have a key forward, do they? Like in terms of, I know they rotate Jackson through there, but not like a stay-at-home kind of full forward. Obviously, Taberner's not really been in that best 22, but Yeah, defensively superb. If you don't concede a goal for a first half,
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter who's playing. Like I think it was the first time we've kept a team goalless since 2004 at halftime. But like that doesn't really happen, does it? Like we've been shit and we always kick a goal by halftime. Like
yeah, yeah,
even this year when we couldn't fucking buy a goal, we were kicking goals at that by halftime. But yeah, no, it's really good by us. And obviously the Hawks pretty disappointing it.
yeah,
Like you cannot get a goal
yeah,
in one half of footy.
yeah. No, well said. I was going to touch on something to do with Jordan Boyd, but I think I'll move on to this one, and it's down to Mitch McGovern. So we haven't touched on Mitch McGovern. I know that before we started the episode, before we press record, you saw his game a little bit different to how I saw his game. So Mitch McGovern, of course, had 20 touches, 17 kicks, 3 handballs, 5 marks, 6 tackles. 85% of his just were, of course, in the defensive half. 65% efficiency, not bad for the type of kicks he takes as well. So my question is, I'll try and shape this towards, like, we aren't going to worry about next year what he chooses to do.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on his game? And what do you reckon if there was anyone else, like a Marchbank or someone else in the VFL who was performing, do you see him coming out of the side? And if not, and if you see him as a best 22 player, why is he so important?
No, I thought he was. I thought he was solid today. I don't think he was, best on ground or anything like that. But I think with Mitch, when I know he plays a good game is when he's intent on the football. I think he laid 6 tackles. When was the last time that happened? In terms of, you know what I mean? Like it's just that in that like the second half when they were getting that little bit of momentum, he'd lay a tackle, especially on that far wing. I think down the bench end. No, I think he's really good. 17 kicks, like fuck me. It's pretty high, and he doesn't need to be superb. And look at the back 6; we conceded 51. Like in terms of who was he really playing on? He was kind of switching, drifting. Their forward line's not superb really. They had a lot of resting mids and terrible midfielders like Warple in there, but. I thought Gov was solid. I think we've both been quite on his back. I think in this year, I think he's one of those players, isn't he? You kind of watch him, and he's kind of that bully boy. Kind of a lot of people get on his back, but I thought he was definitely good enough today. And with Marchie, I just don't really need it. I don't really think of him currently.
Yeah.
I think he needs to play a good few weeks in the twos because I think the reason for him coming in late last year, I think he came back in the last round because he got hurt against Essendon, missed all those games and played the last game. I don't want to get to that stage where we're playing for finals and we're that desperate where we have to drop Gov for a guy who's barely played. You know what I mean? I think it's more about that continuity in the side. Well, you don't want too many ins and outs because that's what hurt us last year, actually, at the back end of the year. We had so many changes that it's hard to really get going because you look at, I know Collingwood's had some ins and outs, but they probably have 16, 15 blokes that are playing every week.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing every week. They might have a week off or whatever, but there's no drastic change. It's like we're not going to bring in Sam Durden next week. Like if Weitering's out, we're not going to bring Sam Durden in. We're going to bring Lewis Young in. He's going to go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about Gov. That's what I like, having continuity down there and being able to go, yeah, I know what I'm going to get out of him. I know obviously at the start of the year he struggled, but I feel like if we get him on a cheap deal, which I think we will, I think that's what they're saying, probably like 300K, that's a good deal. Because there are clubs out there that would take him 100%.
Yeah.
There'd be a dozen clubs that'd take him, and I think he'd want to stay. You wouldn't be here for 5 years just to fucking miss a premiership or miss a premiership because, but yeah, I liked his performance, mate.
Yeah, completely spot on. Well said, actually. I know that, we aren't going to touch on what I think because we want to try and touch on his, like, on the positives. But after you actually spoke then, I do see your side of the thing. So I think at the end of the day, he did his job. He did his job.
Yeah. That's my thinking. That's my thinking.
Yeah. And then that's all I'm pleased about. The other side of it, whether it's, we aren't going to touch on that. So we don't want to make it into a negative episode. And you know that if I start to speak, I'll start to make it a little bit negative. So We'll now touch on the Ruck conversation. I know that you have something to touch on to do with a comment, Daffy Boy, but I'm not too sure about it. You can touch on it. But Young and Silvani, we haven't seen this ever in Carlton, where it's. I mean, we saw it last year with a couple of years ago with Silvani being as that main ruck, but now Lewis Young coming in as that main ruck. They did their job. So at the end of the day, we got the win. They dominated the hitouts that we expected to happen, but with Young and Silvani knowing that they're not going to do as great in the hitouts, what do you think was so important about Young and Silvani's impact? And of course, to also touch on the midfield as well, knowing where the ball is going. What did you think of the ruck and also the midfield battle as well to a stretch?
Yeah, I think Youngie and Silvani played a really smart game of football today. I think, obviously we're playing a lower side, but there's still times in a game where you need like a contest or be there in a certain spot. I think they actually sat behind the ball a few times. It'd be off a stoppage or maybe a Hawthorn free kick. They'd sit themselves in the hole. Probably that centre half back region, that kind of money spot for a forward in terms of entries, and they'd take a few marks or just contest. So I feel like that's where Lewis struggled, because we'd always have someone there. You know what I mean? Well, you put Lewis Young, you got an extra back. Really, when he's gone deep in defence to help out, you've almost got enough defender down there. But no, I thought they were really good. Obviously, we've talked about both of these guys, and specifically Jack Silvani in terms of his role, and you can clearly see what his role is kind of now in terms of he gets the most out of himself. I'll give it to him. You got to give him that. You've got to give him that. And no, he was good today, and it was good to see him enjoying his footy, because obviously in that kind of patch, he looked like he was struggling, especially that Essendon game where we were talking about how they were arguing at each other and all that type of stuff. Both of them, and now they're both working in tandem together in the rucks. And I've just got a little point to make here. Hopefully he's watching, and hopefully he's not hiding behind his keyboard still. But so we had a comment last week in the preview of the game. Obviously, we were talking about the game, and obviously these guys watched. He's taken 40 minutes of his life to watch this episode of A Hawthorn Supporter. Obviously, he's a big fan of the Baggers chat. His name's Joe Packer. Shout out to Joe Packer. But he made a comment about how we're a little bit arrogant, which I didn't really believe. I just thought, I was just talking about their rucks in terms of, they're not A grade. No. They're not A grade. And, well, clearly, Joey boy, like, three-quarter time and you're subbing out Ned Reeves. Like, is he A grader? You're not subbing off an A grade ruckman. And then one of his points was Meek is like an extra mid. Meek is an extra mid.
Oh.
Can we just go? I'm just going to quickly go on the AFL app here. Sorry, Joey boy. I'm not meaning to disrespect you here. Where is he? Big Meeky boy.
Yeah, where is he? You have to go down a little bit on the page.
Extra mid. So, what, Pat, I'll quickly ask you a question. If you're an extra mid, right, how many touches do you reckon you're getting? Oh. Just give me a number that you'd be happy with if your ruckman was kind of that extra mid.
You'd be happy with 18 plus to a stretch.
Yeah, around 16, 17, 18.
Yep.
You had a big one, Meeky. Didn't have a kick.
Ooh.
7 touches, 7 handballs.
7 handballs.
One mark, and he's about the size of the fucking light pole at fucking MCG.
Yep.
Against 2 ruckmen. And he was talking shit about the ruckman that didn't play.
Yep.
In terms of PK and Peter.
Yeah.
They didn't even play.
Oh.
We had Youngie, who hasn't played predominantly ruck at all at Carlton, maybe here and there, and Sauce has always been the second, and Meeky's got 7 touches. And I told you, he played 2s last year for the Dockers. He's nothing special. But no, shout out to you, Joey, because you can watch your side get pumped each and every week. And obviously you got the Giants next week, and that should be another bloodbath for you. So enjoy that.
Well, I mean, we always appreciate the comments. We know we always love the engagement. We always love the engagement. But probably try and think. I mean, to all the opposition supporters, try and make sure that what you are actually saying, make sure you try and well and truly believe, and you have, I guess, I want to use the right words here. Try and make sure that your words actually is used on the actual performance. You don't just speak out of your mind. You need to make sure that you actually there's some logic behind it. So shout out to you, Joey, as Daffy would say, Joey boy. So now we'll move on now to the forwards, of course. We'll touch on 3 names, but before I transition to you, Daff, I know there's a few names that you would like to touch on as well. But of course, Harry Mackay, Jack Martin, Lockie Fogarty, they were all absolutely sensational. Those 3. And of course, Charlie Curnow to a stretch, I still think he presented quite well. He looked a little bit more unselfish today. The pass, he's passed off the ball a lot, but same to Harry Mackay. Field kick, his field kick is insane. Out of those 4, and of course, and Owies as well, and also a Cutters to a stretch as well through that forward line. What do you think of the forward structure, Daffy boy?
I'm just a massive sigh of relief when I see an inboard 15-meter kick to a set shot 25 meters out in front.
Unbelievable.
What did I say during the whole Essendon game? One more kick inside 50, get an easy shot.
Yeah.
And I think in that first 12 weeks, the goals we were getting were from sheer brilliance and tough goals. We just weren't getting easy goals.
Yeah.
Easy goals in your games. And you can get easy goals by these little chip kicks. I thought Harry and Charlie were just passing them off willy-nilly all day, and it was great to see. Obviously a few to Chera in the middle there, and but yeah, I think our forward line was superb, and Jack Martin's always been kind of, I've always liked him. I've always liked the way he goes about. He's that kind of silky kind of, he's hard at it for a guy who's quite light.
Yeah.
He got Warple a good one, or Dylan Moore right in the guts I think it was the second quarter when he was going at the ball. It was a really good hit, but shows you his intent and, his want for the footy. And they're all fantastic. And Fogg, once again, where has he been? I think with small forwards, you've got to turn them over.
Yeah.
Like in terms of they can't just stay in the side unless they're a superstar. They stay in the side for 10 weeks. You just got to turn them over. Because in 2 weeks' time, Fogarty might have a little off game. Then you drop him.
Yeah.
Then you drop him. And then you bring in the Mott who's in form, who's had a ripper on the weekend in the twos, might I add. I think he had 24 and 4 goals. So, no, it's really, really good to see the forward mix. And against Freo, if that forward line plays well, I think we're a very, 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 very good chance.
Yeah. Well said. I know that, I won't touch on all the forwards, but Lockie Fogarty, his football IQ is something that we have been crying out for weeks. And even that goal that he kicked, that's just silky. That is silky. Yeah. Football IQ, just when I saw that go through, I was like, this guy's a genuine footballer. And he's a role player. But to a stretch, he's probably not a role player because he's also a very good footballer as well. So shout out to him as well. Okay, so of course, now we are going to touch on our last segment of the episode. It's always good doing this segment because, of course, after a win, after a few weeks where we've played well, we've won the game, we can now finally touch on, other than 2 players for best on ground, we can touch on maybe 10 to 15 players. So, Daff, I'll throw to you first. There is a lot of options for best on ground. Who would you say I'll ask you a bit of a different one in terms of impact, but if you think in terms of Brownlow votes, who do you think would be they might be the exact same, but there might be one that's impact. Then there's one that it will probably get the 3 votes for the Brownlow. Who would you say, if there's one or maybe a few names, who would you say?
Probably Ed. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, for impact, geez, there's a lot of players.
Yeah.
Just looking through the names now. I don't imagine impact in terms. I don't know. It's tough. I think impact. He's probably almost best on ground in terms of votes, but I think impact. Harry Mackay, apart from his goal kicking, which still needs a little bit of improving, which is frustrating. But I think he had our most highest meters gained. The guy plays in the 50.
Inside.
And it's good to see. And he had I don't know how many scored. He had the most fantasy points on the ground, 2 goals, 3, which is frustrating. But 500 meters gained. I don't how many goal assists does it say? 4 goal assists. So that's directly from his kicking. 16 kicks. Yeah, that's a good day out. 8 marks. As he should have. In my opinion, you know, they obviously don't have Sicily, so they're a little bit down back there. I think either way, they're probably a little bit down back there, the Hawks, but the way they're going. But best on ground for me, I think he gets the 3 votes again, and it's going to be Adam Chera.
Wow.
I was trying to find other best on ground, Pato, but you look at these stats and impact as well. It's just enormous. It's really, really good to see. 27 touches, 11 kicks, 16 handballs. Good ratio. That's a good ratio.
Yeah.
3 marks, of course. 7 tackles. 7 tackles. It showed we're very hard at the ball today, which is really good to see. Even in the last 10 minutes of the last quarter, when the game is done, that's where I want to see. You got to keep going because we're going to be versus good teams. You can't let off in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a tight game, you can't let off. And he also kicked 2 goals, like we've been saying, ahead of the ball. That's when you know that, you know when midfield will start to get to that A grade. I feel like, even when Cripps last year, obviously he's been A grade for a while, but I feel like last year that's where he stood up and that obviously won the Brownlow was getting these 3-goal games.
Yeah. And
Chera, obviously 27 and 2, you'd take that any day of the week.
Yeah. One question with Chera, do you reckon if Dacos and probably as a stretch, and no, I mean, seriously, because it's actually probably a question that you can probably ask. Do you reckon he might, I mean, he's not going to win it. He's very far off that. But do you reckon he will poll quite well? Because I reckon the games that we've won, he's been very good. But also the games that we've lost, he's been very good as well. So do you reckon he could be up there in terms of votes? I mean, he won't win, but in terms of votes, he could be very close to Boy.
Yeah, I think I don't want to talk it up, but I'll say top 10 top 15 nearing top 10, I think. Yeah. Top 15 nearing top 10. Around there, I think. But personally, we know what he brings and he's making such an impact. Like we've already got our Brownlow and our Commons. We want flags now. We want flags now. And players like him are going to contribute to obviously us pushing towards hopefully a finals berth this year, but maybe a finals berth next year. Yep.
Spot on, David boys. So now I'll touch on my 2 names. I think the 2 names that come to mind in terms of impact and then in terms of the 3 votes. They both have probably the same sort of mixtures, but I think in terms of impact, I completely agree with you with Harry Mackay. Harry Mackay, I reckon in terms of impact, not just on the scoreboard, his field kicking is insane.
Tackling.
Yeah.
Tackling. Like, I think that's one of his actual strengths that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
I think he gets 5 tackles. Yeah. You continue, sorry.
Insane. And like as you said, I mean, tackling is not one of his pros, is it? Like it's not.
But it's becoming one.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Which I reckon is really good to see because I don't know if he was playing a little bit more up the ground. And I like how they mix it up a little bit with Harry and Charlie, not one guy, like one guy can kick 5 and the other guy can kick 1, but they both have the same, they work really well together, which is how I said. So in terms of impact, I think it's got to be Harry Mackay. I think, as you said, AFL fantasy points, he was a leading scorer, but of course 2 goals, 3, and 19 touches. Yeah. 19 touches as a key forward. He was just insane. So I reckon in terms of impact, I think he has to be very much up there, if not the most impactful player on the ground. And I was going to go with Cripper, but I think after you spoke, I think I have to go with Adam Chera as well. I think just with him, he's just, as you said, he's a goal-kicking midfielder. Like he kicks those goals, and every single time he has a set shot, like it's okay. It's okay. It's in Chera's hands. And isn't that so?
It's good for that. It's good for the heart. It's good for the heart.
God, like whenever I see like Chera get a set shot, I'm just like, how good is it? How good. You don't have buddy Levi and Caswell coming in with his 5 or 6 steps coming in. It's all good. Adam Chera's there. So I think Chera has to be best on ground. And the reason why I asked about the Brownlow is because he is performing so well. And every single game he's been in this year, I reckon he's very much up there. So, so I reckon he's been absolutely fantastic. He's leading the BNF by literally the length of the Flemington Straight. But in terms of Brownlow, I mean, he's so far off it. But I don't think he would. I think as you said, I think borderline,
20, top 15.
Yeah.
I reckon.
I think he has to be.
You never know because the umpires are stupid. So that's another conversation to have. Fuck me. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well.
It's going to cover there, but yeah.
Yeah. We may as well just change this podcast to our umpire boys. So of course that was the last segment that we'll touch on. I know it's just quite good to have the winning feeling back. And we've missed it. We've missed it. The past 2 weeks, 3 weeks because of the bye, of course, but we both kicked 100 points. Gold Coast, we kicked 120 by memory. And this game, we kicked 112. Just fantastic to see just some scoring on the board. And this is one thing that we've been crying out for. The reason even we were losing is because we weren't scoring. So when you actually break the shackles and actually go and take on the game and score, you win the game. So 112 and 120 against Gold Coast by memory, I think. But yeah, I think it's great. But in terms of just, I think overall the team as a whole, just great. And as you said, I think I don't really want to make too many changes in the next few weeks because if we're going to really be serious about this charge towards the finals and try and shake it up and see what we can do, I don't want to make 3 or 4 changes every week. I want to keep this team united and see what we can do. Of course, 1 or 2 players probably across like a 3-week bracket, that's okay. But if it's 4 or 5, it just messes up the chemistry. So I think we found our right fit with this team, and hopefully we just want to see how it ends up. But before we wrap up the episode, Duffy Boy, is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I'm just quite pleased. We've got some percentage back on our terms. I think our last 3 wins have been pretty big, actually. Obviously, the Eagles win, and then the Gold Coast win, and then this win. So there's been some comfortable wins. We want more wins, but they've been comfortable. I think our percentage right now is 103. 3.4. So we go above the Tigers, which really we should be, but we're equal with the Swans on percentage. But I think these teams above us, it's tough. That Freo game is an 8-pointer. That is an absolute 8-pointer. If we can get that win, we get above them, and hopefully we can hit that Port game hard and really just get us going, and then lead into Collingwood and lead into Melbourne, which would be huge. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it next week. Obviously, I'll do a vlog going through my emotions of the game, so I'll make sure I get that done, and that'll be up on the channel or socials, wherever it'll be. But me looking like a dickhead in Perth, but no, it's always good talking Blues, Pato, and it's good that we're actually enjoying this now rather than feel like it's a chore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, that's probably the perfect way to sum it up. So I don't think I'll touch on too much after that because that's probably the best way to sum it up. So make sure to all the viewers out there, make sure to please like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. We always try our best to try and change it up each and every week, but of course to try and just get content out there to all the baggers and also to the AFL community as a whole, just mutual supporters. We hope to also try and make sure that you're enjoying our content as well, because that's our main goal at the end of the day. We want to try and make sure that we try and think we are doing a solid enough job, but also to try and make sure that the mutual supporters out there try and enjoy our content as well. But as I said, make sure to please like and subscribe on YouTube and also on all the podcast platforms. Make sure to try and leave a review, try and rate our show, because we do try our best through the week to try and get these episodes up. And of course, with you, Duffy Boy, with the socials and stuff. And of course, from my end as well with the editing, we always try our best. So, I mean, it's always good being on the end of the other end.
Yes.
It's just always great. And it will be funny to look at some losses throughout the year and how angry we were. just now, just a little bit more laid back and just a little bit more chill. So,
good.
as I said, make sure you enjoy the weekend, baggers, and of course the week going into next week against Fremantle. To you, Duffy boy, and to all the blue baggers out there, up the baggers. Oh no, it's the wrong way.
Fucking hell, Pano, sort it out.
Oh, the baggers.